Do, 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 do.
All right. You know, when you hear that music, it is time for My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Schepp. It is Thursday at 11 a.m. here on 216 The Net, 216thenet.com. Mary, how you been since last week? Yeah? What you been up to? I know we had talked about the zombie apocalypse last week. You survived the zombies, I see.
I did. They're still out there. They're still chasing us all. I'm still surviving it. Doing my store, going to work, and cooking a lot. We actually just did a challenge in our McHenry County Recipe Share food group. It was a lot of fun. And so like they do on Chopped, that TV show.
Yeah.
We did the same thing where we picked a few ingredients and a few people played. We didn't have as many people play because, everybody's on quarantine and they can't go out and shop for things. So the few people that did go grocery shopping and were able to find stuff did play. But it was goat cheese, Italian sausage, blueberries, and ginger.
Goat cheese,
Italian sausage, blueberries, and ginger.
And you actually made you brought some in here, and I'm gonna try that this afternoon.
My husband and I.
I've never eaten goat cheese though. I had
never had feta.
Maybe
like Greek feta cheese on. Well, you don't eat a whole lot of salad either, but
no, I try not to.
He's trying. I try not to.
Yeah.
So yes, it's one of those things that it's a tart cheese, it's a strong cheese, it's a stinky cheese. So it's one of those things that is an acquired taste, but it kind of brings us in today's show, which is flavor profiles, because so many people are like the blueberries. Well, the other day I made flank steak with an onion blueberry sauce. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And even my husband was like, I never thought of blueberries, but they're not inherently sweet. They're more of a tart flavor by themselves.
Yeah, if you just eat a blueberry, it's not actually sweet.
It's really tart. So you can pair that with whole different host of things that you would never think of. So we just thought, because of obviously with everybody being home, it'd be fun to have a challenge to, just spice things up a little bit. Obviously we can't taste it. We can't get together. So you're just based on what people created. And then that combined with how it looks. So we had quite a few good things going on here. You can steal that if you want to. Yeah. I think, can I give it to you, maybe? Actually. I know, we're getting weird over here.
The wonderful technical things. There we go. Perfect.
Had to give him
Thank you so very much.
That's what we enjoy. Joyful stuff. Hey, Dawn. Hey, Dad. John, my friends. See, all my friends are watching. So yeah, we did. It was a lot of fun. My husband and I, have you seen that commercial? I think it's a Popeyes commercial. And there's that big black lady sitting in the car and she's eating fried chicken. She says that I'm experiencing some things right now because the chicken's so good. So that's what my husband said yesterday when he tried the little puff pastry with Italian sausage and goat cheese. But I cheated because the topping was blueberry bacon chutney, which if you've ever had a bacon chutney, you really can't go wrong with anything bacon. It's just, I mean, come on, it's bacon. You even said that
it's
your
bacon.
vote was for the bacon dish simply because it had bacon. And we lost the live feed on Facebook.
Yeah, we did, but we're getting it back. Don't worry. No worries.
So, since we lost the live feed,
We're still live. We've actually got listeners.
You can watch us on YouTube, and you can also download the 216 The Net app, or you can listen on the website through the 216thenet.com as well. So if you're watching Facebook Live and we lose you, Facebook isn't always our best friend. Great medium, just not always our best friend. But it made me think, doing this challenge, and there's so many people who say, I would have never in a million years thought to do what you did and to pair those things together that you paired together. And many times I'm not the one who thought of it. I'm just using somebody else's idea, or I rely on the profiles that I've known and come to know and say, hey, I bet this, like when I use grapes with roasted vegetables, same thing. Everybody's like, what made you think to use grapes with roasted vegetables? Well, if you use something sweet on a vegetable, it helps combat that bitter flavor. So if you put roasted grapes, gives that kind of sweet, lightly sweet, so it's not cloying and overpowering, and you don't have to add sugar, where obviously sugar is not the greatest thing for you. So you want to be sparing with how you use that. But it's a fantastic pairing. So whenever I do roasted Brussels sprouts and onions and garlic and all that stuff, I throw, cut in half purple grapes. Or if I make, like the other day when I made steak, we did sauteed onions and garlic with blueberries. So, I mean, you can do just about anything and pair the two together. So it got me thinking about this with the flavor profiles and how much people don't know about flavor profiles. So there's sweet, spice, bitter, sour, salt, and umami, which umami is just a savory flavor, as it were. Or salt. Umami is like that sear you get on a meat or on mushrooms. So it brings a level to a dish that you normally wouldn't have. It's talked about a lot in Japanese cooking, but usually by adding salt, that's where the umami comes from. Obviously, in my world, I can't add salt, so I need to find another way to get that umami or that overall brightness of flavor that you would normally get by just adding a pinch of salt. So, little known secret that is becoming less and less little known is bacon grease or pork grease or any kind of that animal protein fat is lower in sodium, because many times the salt component is in the meat itself. It's not necessarily in the grease. So you get the flavor. So that's why a lot of times I'll do roasted, or I'll add pork, just pork fat straight up from the butcher, or ground pork or something of that nature, because of the fact that the fat content is where the flavor comes from the fat. So you get this salted flavor, and pork just has a naturally salted umami flavor. Now, if you're a vegetarian, your best option a lot of times is to do sauteed vegetables, like sauteed mushrooms are a great option. Great option. And I lost my train of thought because I'm trying to do 6 things at one time, and I can't do 6 things at one time.
That's okay. I'm doing the same thing, 6 things at one time, and it does kind of throw you a bit when one of your live streams, takes a header and you got to reestablish it. But that's the wonderful joy of working with and through Facebook sometimes.
And being live.
And being live, that's the joy of. This is happening literally right now. All these people get to tune in, have a good time, and take advantage of all the stuff immediately now. So there you go. That's kind of the cool thing about all this.
So I'm kind of excited to have you taste the pastries that I brought in.
I'm actually looking forward to it. I will say, when I was little, my grandparents, my mom's parents, had goats, and they had goat's milk, and I did not like that.
A unique flavor.
I did
And we had
not like the
someone-
goat's milk at all.
We had someone compete that she took a picture of all the ingredients and sent it over and said, I changed my mind. I can't stand goat cheese. We're like, we're not going to eat it. And then 10 minutes later, she sends me a picture and says, so this is what I did anyways. I'm like, I think it's hilarious that you started with, I ain't doing this. I don't like it. And then 2 seconds later, switch to, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to make this anyway. I got the ingredients. And she even said, she's like, it wasn't horrible. It wouldn't be my first choice. But that's my thing is, it's not, as you know, when I had you try that smoothie.
I really did not want to try that smoothie either, but I did. Yeah.
And that's what I love. I love when people try my food. It's like an extension of me. You put your heart and soul into something, whether you're a cook or a painter or a broadcaster or whatever, whatever you are, when you put your heart and soul into something and it does well or right by others, it's very gratifying. Mm-hmm. So when I make something, it's like sharing a piece of me.
And let me tell you, that blueberry crumble cheesecake you made last week.
So I've heard.
Oh,
that's what
the angels sang. Kent and I both tried. And I waited till he got here Friday morning because we had to do the show Friday morning. And I did not get into that until I gave him first dibs, take all you want out of that. And both of us were just, that was.
So apparently that's the common consensus that I got.
That thing was just amazing.
It was really good.
It completely redeemed the smoothie.
So Jim says he can't hear me that well. So I think Jim needs hearing aids.
Turn your volume up. I've got you cranked. I can hear you perfectly.
Over here, I can't get any higher.
Yeah, I've got
Stephanie. When it just got me thinking about how many people don't think about the flavor profiles and sweet, spice, bitter, sour, salt, and umami. So one of the main things that are easy to combat with that salt is the sour or spicy. And a lot of people don't think of that, but if you just a little bit of lime juice or lemon juice, and a lot of times, because I don't use them and they go bad and I hate wasting it, I use citric acid. It's actually a powder that I buy. It's more commonly used in canning than it is anything else because it's easier to add a little bit of the citric acid to bring it up to the pH or down to the pH or whatever that you need to do to make things shelf stable when you're canning canned goods. So I tend to use the powder a little bit more because it goes a lot longer. I mean, literally the smallest little itty bitty pinch of something goes very, very far. And it brings that punch and that acidic flavor, which brings out and enhances all the other flavors like salt does. So sweet is more than desserts, like with the blueberries on my steak. That's actually not an uncommon thing in the chef world to use blueberries or grapes or, things of that nature on savory foods. So sweet balances out bitter and spicy flavors. So it's very common to use, strawberries or blueberries or something in a savory dish to balance out and to bring that sweet when you don't normally have it. Sugar, maple syrup, jams, honey, balsamic, ketchup, they're all sweet flavors that you can get. Then actual foods. So like last night, the lunch that I brought for you guys today was my dinner last night, which a lot of you guys don't realize that pretty much almost every Thursday, I bring lunch for people.
You do, yeah. It's we actually look forward to,
depending on the vegetable content.
Not just because you do a great show, but yeah, because if it's vegetables, I leave it for Kent.
Like the soup last week, the tomato mix, the vegetarian soup last week. But
which Kent really did like, by the way. He really enjoyed that. That
is one of my favorite soups that I made for a friend of mine. But good, Alex says, good morning from Coronaville. We got Singapore. We got all sorts of people on here today.
Yeah. Tons.
Everybody's home and bored, so they're watching me on Facebook.
Yeah. Hey.
I can peek Pete's nose.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for that.
Well, whatever. That's what you get for putting your giant head on my wall.
Kent. I need a better picture.
I think that picture is perfect. I think it's freaking fantastic. Love everything about it. I love the fact that in the middle of my show, for the people listening on the radio, I can stick my hand up and pick Pete's nose out of his giant head that's projected on my wall here. It's absolutely fantastic. But
I'm glad that's there for your amusement.
I think it's great. That's why my logo was a bunch of rolls and not my face, because then I'd have, Dawn on her show would be picking my nose on my show. So last night, the dish that I make a lot is it's a thingy. I make a lot of thingies, and it's ground beef, spices, tomatoes, and I add bell pepper. My husband likes spice. He can literally slice up habaneros, put it on a salad, same as you. Like, he can eat them like candy, like tomatoes out of the garden, and he literally does. We grow them in the summertime. We're actually converting our small garden into just nothing but a hot pepper garden, and he loves the spice. I have started to like it more since I went low sodium, because it brings flavor, enhances things the way salt does. So I taste something sweet typically, and my go-to most often is either bell peppers or corn. And they just it adds a crunch and a texture and a sweetness. So anytime I make my noodly dishes, a lot of times I put bell peppers or corn. Squash, beets, carrots, and fruits like strawberries and stuff like that can also do it. One that's not so common that I suggest everybody try, it's not always as easy to find in our retailer grocers as most, are parsnips. It's a white, it looks like a carrot, but it's white.
Yeah.
And they're sweet, but not as sweet as carrots. But it's almost like a sweeter potato, but not. It's very mild. It's very good, and they're fantastic. So sliced up cubes of parsnip in something, or parsnip puree. If sweet potatoes are too sweet and potatoes are too bland, parsnips are kind of like this happy middle ground, which is fantastic.
I mean, I know what they are. I don't know that I've ever actually eaten a parsnip.
And that's what I love about this kind of thing is every time I go to the grocery store and I look at, it's like, I've never tried parsnips. I'm going to get parsnips. I never tried leeks. I'm going to try leeks. I'm going to do whatever. Just realize that my phone is not turned down. That's fantastic.
That's all right. We all enjoyed listening to that little alert.
My little ding.
Yeah. Effects, sound effects.
But I do. I very much enjoy when you go and you see something. It's like, what the hell is that? I've never tried that. Now, granted, things like a jackfruit, the thing is like this big. So unless a store has already cut it up so that you can buy a smaller portion of it.
Yeah, I've never tried a jackfruit.
I get it. You're not going to, something like that. The same with like a watermelon. I know watermelon's common, but if you've never tried watermelon, you're not going to buy this huge melon to try a slice of it. So I get that it's harder on some things than others.
Well, you can now buy the little, it's already cut up, and it's like in a little plastic dish thing of pretty much anything now. Sure. In fact, people
don't think to ask your butcher counter. Like the deli butcher counter, fruit counter, like all of those things. If you ask them, most of these grocers now, they do catering, they do salads, they do rotisserie, they do all of that. And Jewel once did a pork roast for me. Because I asked him, like, is chicken the only thing you do? And he says, no, we do all this catering, we do all this other stuff. So it's like, can you do? I don't want to buy a rotisserie. I don't have the counter space, and they'll accommodate quite a bit, and it's really surprising. But
yeah, you had mentioned that before. Now I will be more inclined to get some onions and green peppers and things like that if it's already chopped up,
right?
Just because I'm lazy. I don't really want to. I don't want to sit there. Now I will cut up like a green pepper or something, but I just don't. I mean, I'm just much more inclined to use it if it's already ready to go.
So Gary says jackfruit's popular over in Southeast Asia, which I knew that, but I've never actually tried jackfruit myself. Gary, what does jackfruit taste like? I'm curious. Like, is it sweet? Is it like stinky cheese? Like, I don't know. I'm curious to know. Now I'm going to probably buy a jackfruit on the next grocery trip.
Just because you want to know. Is that big green thing?
It's the big spiky, whatever, funky looking football size, watermelon size, whatever, alien looking thing.
Yeah, it's a weird looking thing.
So, but you know, taking sweet to combat with bitter and savory, or bitter and spicy, I should say, is pretty common. So chocolate covered peppers are really tasty. Adding spice to chocolate is another thing that's become more and more popular with the chefs, where they add heat to chocolate dishes or brownies and stuff like that. And it's, especially if you're a spicy loving person, it's really good stuff.
I don't think I've ever tried spicy chocolate. Have I ever had anything chocolatey with
I will
spice?
bring you something.
I don't think I ever have. I don't think I've never actually heard of anybody making a chocolate covered pepper.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
I'll have to bring you some stuff.
So, because I like chocolate, I'll eat the crap out of chocolate. That's good stuff.
Well, now I'll have to look and see, because he says if it's spiky, it's not jackfruit. That's durian. I can guarantee you we don't have durian here in the States in our local grocery store.
Never heard of durian.
Well, you might downtown Chicago or something like that. I'll have to look and see what it is. Now I'm curious, but here nor there. We'll figure it out in a second.
Yeah.
So sour also balances spicy, but it also balances sweet flavors. So think sweet and sour chicken.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things ever. And sweet and sour sauce tends to be lower in sodium.
It's okay.
Something that I mean,
I guess it would.
If you get it from a takeout restaurant, it's not. But if you get it from a jar, there's a lot of times the sweet and sour sauces that I find are.
Don't they use like a lot of pineapple in that?
They can. See, it is too. It's not, well, it's kind of spiky.
It's spiky?
Yes. See, jackfruit.
Okay.
The outside of the husk, it's got little, maybe it's not spiky, but it's like a big, giant, green, bumpy thing.
Yeah.
That looks like it's got acne.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm thinking of the right thing.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, sour, sweet and sour chicken, the tart flavors balance out spicy dishes and sweet dishes. So a bit of sour cream, and I do that often. The dish that I made today or yesterday for today that it's not a good enough wasabi sauce.
See, if it doesn't make your eyes tear up and your nose run, it's just
final shower curtain to me. It just it smells so awful. It really does. Every time he opens a big jar of the spicy yellow mustard from the Chinese place, it's like someone opened a fresh vinyl.
Because I like that
curtain.
stuff.
Yeah, he loves it.
I'm right there with him on that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I got to get like 70 packets of it from every time we get takeout. But if you add a sour cream or a yogurt or something of that nature to a sour or to a spicy dish, it tames that. So like this particular noodle dish, the thingy that I made that is ground beef and noodles and rotel, red bell peppers, tomatoes, San Marzano tomatoes.
It sounds good.
I add a bit of heavy cream at the end or sour cream.
What kind of noodles did you make?
They're egg noodles. So
okay, so just big fat. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, those are good.
So I do all the time. I almost always have either sour cream or heavy cream in my fridge. And that cream brings down, and you wouldn't think of it as being tart, but heavy creams, sour creams, and yogurts are very sour. They're very tart. It's why a lot of recipes call for buttermilk, that sourness or that acidicness. So using a cream or a yogurt can tame. So if you have a dish that's too spicy, by adding, a couple dollops of yogurt or sour cream, my husband can have the spicy side and I can have the tamer. I mean, that's why they say if you eat hot peppers, to drink milk instead of water.
Yeah.
Because it helps tame that heat. So now the one that I always love is bitter, because bitter is a lesson in genetics, and it absolutely fascinates me.
How so? This is not something I'm familiar with.
Everybody, we've talked about this before about palate.
Yeah.
There's bitter palates and there's sweet palates, and everybody has a different palate. And I think Mythbusters actually did a thing testing things like this. And it's not just Mythbusters. Other places have done different studies and so on and so forth, where it was like broccoli. Broccoli tends to be a bitter food. Just straight up eat a piece of broccoli or even cooked broccoli. It's bitter.
I don't know if I would have ever called broccoli bitter because I eat I will eat well, I'll put it in some ranch dip.
Cheese and ranch dip and bacon.
Yeah, but I'll eat it.
Right, but it's not necessarily considered sweet to most people. But depending on your palate, it can be, because the receptors in your mouth that taste sweet, sour, bitter, spicy, and salt, um, certain people have stronger flavor. I mean, different parts of their, they taste different. Everybody tastes differently. And the genetics and how, your bloodline and your heritage and how you evolved determines how flavor profiles of, taste to you. Bitter very often equates to something poisonous. Plants that
okay.
to stop, so plants that want to be eaten to propagate. Fruits, they want you to eat the apple, so you eat the seeds, so you poop the seeds, so you grow the flower to then the plant, and it grows more apples. Fruits that, or things that don't want you to eat them, tend to have some sort of defense mechanism, so that bitter flavor or that poisonous. So like a lot of things that are good for you in small doses can be deadly in large doses, like nightshades. I'm sensitive to nightshades. Most people are. Nightshade is poisonous. It was in Hamlet. It's poisonous. Same with like cyanide. You'll consume cyanide in small doses in food pretty commonly, and you don't even know it. But in a large dose, obviously, it's lethal. It just depends on the dosage. So bitter tends to be stuff that you're not supposed to eat. It's a mechanism for the plant to not eat it. So depending on where you've evolved from, if it's something that's bitter but is still good for you, you can eat it, and you might not be as sensitive to bitter palate. If your bloodline and your heritage comes from a place where, say, that bitter broccoli was actually just loaded with poisonous whatever, so your genetic makeup says that bitter is going to kill you, you should avoid it, and you should stick to this side of the food spectrum. That's how how you evolve, how things go. It's like why one animal eats bananas on one island but doesn't on another.
Huh.
It's how, it depends on what that is available to them and how their palate evolves.
Okay.
Like koalas eating eucalyptus leaves. It's not very nutritious. It's not very good for you. They have to eat a shit ton of them. So that's all they do all day long is eat it, because in order to break it down, so they've evolved the digestive tract and the enzymes and the so on and so forth to be able to do that. And it's the same with bitter food, which is why it's so fascinating to me. Because it makes a perfect dish to combine all of these things together. But that being said, bitter is not usually something you say, I'm going to add some bitterness to this dish.
Yeah, no, I don't think you would. But see, like I love, because you've got some stuff on here like grapefruit. I don't mind; it's all right. But grapefruit, I wouldn't necessarily call that bitter either. Coffee, I guess it depends on the coffee. To me, I drink coffee like it's a freaking water.
Coffee is bitter.
I'm drinking coffee right now at this very moment.
Me too. Jackfruit. I'm scrolling through some of these quotes. Yeah. So, coffee is bitter. That's why a lot of people don't like black coffee, because of that bitter nature. Me personally, I love black coffee.
Yeah, mine is right now.
But I grew into that over time because I didn't used to. But my palate has changed over the years.
Now I don't mind a creamer. And in fact, usually at home, I use heavy whipping cream for my coffee.
And if we run out,
and it makes it very nice and smooth.
Yeah.
But
Same.
I don't ever put I never put sweetener in coffee ever, like sugar or anything like that. I never put that in there.
We used to, but now predominantly my husband and I just use coffee creamer, because it's so loaded with sugar. Just a little bit adds a sweetness to your coffee. You really don't need sugar, in my opinion. But then again, our palate has significantly changed, because the two of us we realized that we were drinking soda, way like unbelievable amounts of it. And one day we went through like 3 cases in a weekend or something.
Holy
I was like,
cow.
holy crap! We didn't even have it? Did we do this all by ourselves? Like, we need to watch how much we're drinking this
Did
crap.
you have people over?
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have a big party. We didn't, and so
I mean, there's like 24 cans in a case, isn't there?
we went through a lot, and
holy cow!
I was like, A, that's expensive, and B, this is just not good for us. So, of course, the proverbial meme that you see on Facebook where we both quit sugar and he lost 15 pounds and I didn't lose anything. It was exactly the case. But
Wow.
we did. We stopped, like, literally almost overnight. We both quit drinking pop.
Because you're like, I'll drink soda, but I
can't anymore.
I don't.
Now. It's too sweet.
Like the stuff that my wife won't touch the stuff that I like. The only thing that Coke.
Mm-hmm.
That's my go-to. The regular old Coke.
Right.
Just normal old Coca-Cola. Behind that, regular old Pepsi. And if I'm not getting either of those, just some regular cola, or I like orange soda or grape soda. And then I'm kind of done with the soda family.
Yeah,
I'm occasionally Mountain Dew's all right.
Ooh.
But I can't.
So,
yeah, it's
Glenn
like
said her
super
son-in-law
sweet.
made jackfruit into pulled pork for vegetarian. I'm gonna have to try that.
Say what now? Say that again.
The
So
jackfruit, because of the texture of it, it's stringy.
okay.
So kind of like spaghetti squash, I'm thinking. She said her son turned it into pulled pork for a vegetarian dish. I'm gonna have to try that.
So made it like a pulled pork
Right.
dish
It shreds
using jackfruit
right.
instead of pork.
Right. I'm gonna have to try that.
Huh.
I've heard of it on probably one of the Food Network shows.
So they put like barbecue sauce on that? I mean, that's a fruit, right?
Yeah.
So is it like a bland fruit? It's not very.
No.
Because like pork isn't super.
Yeah, pork. It's mild.
Yeah, it's a very mild flavor, unless you're eating bacon, which is, of course, we all know the most magical of all foods.
Anything goes with bacon.
Anything goes with bacon.
Anything goes with it. In your world, that's a fruit and a vegetable.
Yes.
And a meat.
There's no need to eat anything else. If you have bacon, you're set.
Right. Body by bacon.
Yes.
Not gonna lie, I've cooked more bacon in the last 2 weeks than I've cooked probably in the last 3 years.
Wow.
I mean, my husband's a happy camper, and I'm not even kidding you. That bacon chutney that I made, it's absolutely fantastic. So it's in those little pastries. They're really good. They're really good.
No, I'm looking. I'm going to try it. I'm looking forward to it, even with the goat cheese.
So bitter stuff that pairs well with something sweet or salty. Spinach, broccoli, kale, radicchio, and one that's not common is dandelion greens. I mean, it's common. It's really common. It's anytime you get mixed greens in the grocery store in a little pre-made tub and you open it up and you got a salad.
See, you've mentioned that before, and that just seems so weird to eat dandelion,
it's
like as a human.
The same thing in your front yard.
Because my wife gets dandelion greens for the rabbit.
Yeah. And
the rabbit loves them, but it's a freaking rabbit.
Yep. But
it's literally rabbit food.
It's also in every salad. All those mixed green salad kits that you see at the grocery store. It's, greens and baby spinach and dandelion and arugula. Huh. Just nobody ever pays attention to the fact that they're paying $8 million for dandelion greens when they could pick it out of their front yard, because it's the same thing.
It's literally that.
It's the
little
greens, funky spiky leaf.
The greens are the little leaves that come off the base, the bottom.
Spike, not the spiky poke you.
Yeah, not the
thistle.
Stem or the thistle or not the yellow portion.
Yeah.
It's
But they do. I mean, I do that, and that's the other thing. I had when I mentioned the dish that I made today and told Pete that he's allowed. He gets to determine whether or not he wants to eat it, because it does actually have spinach in it, and I like that bitter component when I have a spicy dish.
Yeah, my wife loves spinach too. She puts spinach in all her stuff.
And you tolerate it.
I do. Because she made it.
Right.
I mean, she made it. She put the effort in it. I'm not going to not eat it.
Right.
But she knows too that if it's going in front of me, that she usually keeps whatever I'm eating as minimally associated with spinach as possible. But and then she'll have her batch, or like her
Right.
and our daughter or whoever, because they'll all eat it. I'm just like I don't know. I don't. It's green. I don't like it. I don't want it. It's green.
I've actually really grown to like spinach, but it's along the same lines as mushrooms with me. All my life, it was always like with pizza: no fish, no fungus. I couldn't do mushrooms. I didn't like them at all, and it wasn't ever the mushroom flavor. So if someone got mushrooms on a pizza, I just picked the mushrooms off. It was always purely a textural thing for me.
Okay.
So I just never, I couldn't do it.
See, I've always loved mushrooms ever since the discovery of mushroom soup when I was a kid.
Yeah, my husband's the same way. He loves them and he enjoys them. And it wasn't until I went low sodium that someone kept saying, try mushrooms, try mushrooms, try mushrooms. So I was like, all right, it's the same, everybody, the same things. It's acid, spice, and try mushrooms because it's got this umami flavor. The same as like seared steak or meat does. It's not the same. It's like telling somebody that turkey bacon is bacon.
Yeah, no.
It's an okay food and it's edible and it's nice and turkey bacon has its own place, but it is not freaking bacon.
No.
It's just not.
No.
And it's the same with mushrooms. It's not meat, but it still imparts that flavor when you sear it. So I discovered that when cooked properly, I can do mushrooms.
Okay.
When they're not cooked properly, it's like I'm eating a slug. I just can't do the texture. It's squishy and gross and spongy, and it's
okay. Like, so you need them really cooked down.
They either need to be cooked down in a dish or they need to be seared and sauteed properly.
Yeah.
I can't do the frozen and then thawed again and then.
Have you ever done like the portobello burger?
Oh yeah, I do a stuffed portobello that my husband and I absolutely love.
Yeah, because I love those. Oh man, or even like a portobello, like a sandwich, a portobello steak sandwich. It's so good.
One of the first times that I tried to actually make a mushroom dish, not just adding mushrooms for flavor, was stuffed portobellos. We stuffed them with a spicy Italian sausage, orzo, and cheese on top, because cheese is on everything in my house. There's always, I don't even know why my husband asks anymore because.
Well, you can't go wrong with cheese.
Well, that's part of the reason why I make everything as low sodium as I do, because I'm going to have cheese with it. And that's my salt is cheese. So when you have a little tiny bit of goat cheese or Parmesan or Asiago, when your palate is no longer salted like mine, a very, very, very small amount of Asiago or something of that nature goes a long way to make you feel like you're getting what you're missing. So it's a huge difference. So spicy stuff, that one's hard for me because I'm just now getting to where I can tolerate more heat. I've always liked the flavor. So when you get a mild spicy pepper, it's not much different than, a red bell pepper or green bell pepper. And ironically, you can get cross-pollination. And we had one year the green peppers that we grew tasted like my husband's habaneros. It was just like this little
were they just too close to the habaneros?
I don't know. And I was just like, man, I don't think I've ever had a spicy green pepper in my life. I would have never thought about that. But it did. It just had this slight little hint. But when you get a mild, more mild, not a habanero or jalapeno, when you get the more mild, poblanos and stuff like that, that you can, when it doesn't blow out your palate from being too spicy, you get that flavor. And it's like a green pepper. It has a distinct flavor. It's not just heat. So it does add a lot to a dish. Even jalapenos and stuff like that. If you're making a big batch of something and you add just the smallest little hint of that pepper, it brings a lot of flavor. So I've been getting better with the spice. I add it a lot more often. But the biggest reason is its health benefit. People would think that spicy, because it lights your mouth on fire, makes your lips swell up, that it's an inflammatory food. And it's actually an anti-inflammatory. So if you have autoimmune diseases, like with me, with my transverse myelitis, gout, when you have
You gotta be
inflammatory
careful
type
with that.
diseases or tendencies or syndromes, you need to stick to an anti-inflammatory diet. And things that are heavy in garlic and spices are, so you wouldn't think like literally my lips will swell up if I eat too much hot stuff. But as far as internally how your body processes it, it is an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean you can down 6 bottles of hot sauce, because it's still going to give you gut rot.
Yeah,
But,
you do have to be careful with
Right.
that. You really do. So I mean, for the longest time, I had to cut spices because of stupid ulcers, and now they're pretty much fine and dandy. Well, fine, perhaps not dandy as well, but I can still tell sometimes if I've had a little bit too much, it starts to feel like, when you have like an open sore and you touch it and it gets a little sting. That it's kind of what it feels like if I eat something that's too spicy. And so it's like, okay, I gotta stop.
Poke the bear a little bit too much.
Yeah. So
Heather says that because if you I remind myself when cooking any dish. No. So because of me, she has to remind herself if a dish already has cheese in it to not add extra salt to the dish, helping reduce their salt intake. So I'm glad I can help you, Heather.
Huh, that's cool.
And that's the other thing is how and where, and I know this comes down to a cooking technique, and at time and experience and stuff is what's going to take this. But there's so many times where people just say, oh, well, I can add salt afterwards. Sometimes that is the case. But more often than not, the method in which you prepare a dish and the stages in which you prepare a dish and when you season it and how you season it determines how those flavors turn out. My sister, for instance, made a big, huge, giant batch of chili one time and literally just threw everything in the pot and then went, okay, this tastes like garbage. Can you fix it? No.
No, you made garbage.
There's no amount of ketchup that's going to fix this. I can literally dump a gallon of salt and a gallon of ketchup on it, and it's because ketchup fixes everything, It's not going to fix it. There's no searing, there's no Maillard reaction, there's no, the meat itself needs to be seasoned regardless of how you're seasoning. Whether you're seasoning with salt or something else, it needs to be seasoned when it's cooking, because otherwise, once it cooks, whether you sear it and get that, umami from the Maillard reaction, or you just straight up boil it, which is awful, it still seals that little package and changes the protein structure. And now once it's sealed, you can't get flavor inside that. So it's just coating the outside of it, kind of like tofu is what it makes me think of. Now, tofu does not, it's just a vehicle to get seasoned in your mouth. And I'm sure that if you marinate tofu in a lot of salt and a lot of different things, and it's popular in Asian cultures and whatever, that it probably tastes good by somebody who knows how to marinate it and make it properly. But when you can't have salt, it's really hard to impart flavors like that through osmosis into the center of a product and have it taste good. So in other words, it's just a coated, spicy chunk of plastic that is what.
Yeah.
And that's the same way with boiled meat. So there's a process to how you season it throughout. So, that's why when you cook without salt and you dump everything in a crock pot, that it's part of it. I'm not a big fan of crock pots.
No.
Not anymore. I mean, I like my Dutch oven because it sears the outside and then I can put everything on top of it and cook it. Or if I cook with a crock pot, I tend to sear it and then put it in my crock pot so that all the flavors can meld later. But that's, to each their own.
Yeah, sure.
Some people love their crock pot and they're okay with that flavor, and they just add a ton of salt right in the beginning. I don't have that luxury.
Generally, like if we're cooking something for ourselves, or if I'm cooking something for myself in a crock pot, generally I'll do that. I'll add all kinds of stuff in there, and it's going to cook from the very beginning in there. I rarely sear something unless it's like ribs or something like that, because you definitely want the sear on a rib before you crock pot it.
And that's the thing. Like with crock pots, you can add that salt in the very beginning when everything's raw.
Yeah.
So it pulls that flavor in through osmosis, and it pulls all the other ingredients in. Still not the same to me as a seared piece of anything, but it's kind of why I haven't been a huge fan of crock pots, other than to keep it warm and heated when I cook for my crew at work. So, but that spiciness, it does, it brings a balance, and it brings a punch like you would get from salting your food. So when you start to learn how to cook with it, and you find that balance of just a little bit of heat, if you're someone that likes heat like you, then go balls to the wall. Who cares? Someone like me, it takes a little bit more balance to figure out where I like that spiciness to kind of lie. And I have a tendency to use horseradish because it's a more mild spice. I mean, you can get some seriously spicy horseradish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's easier for me to control with horseradish than it is with like a habanero or a hot pepper. The other one is arugula and watercress or radishes. So now radishes, and the same with anything, garlic, onions, all that stuff, depending on where it's grown, they're all like wine.
Yeah.
So depending on how your radishes are growing, you'll get super mild sweet radishes, or you'll get super spicy habanero radishes.
Yeah.
Which sucks because you don't know what you're getting at the grocery store until you get home and bite into one.
Yeah, you really don't, because they don't.
I think they'll frown upon you biting into bunches of radishes.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to just sit there at the store and just start eating radishes.
You might get arrested for terrorism if you start chewing on radishes.
You probably would.
In the produce aisle.
Yeah, probably would.
Yeah, that would be a very, very bad thing.
But radishes are, I said reddish. That's what we used to call them when we were growing up in our
little
house.
chitlins.
Yeah, reddish, because they're red,
Mm-hmm.
But my dad used to eat those like crazy.
My husband loves them.
So we always had them around, and it really, you didn't know if you were going to get something that was really sweet unless you purposefully got, because you can grow sweet, like the mild sweet radish. You can get those and grow those on purpose.
And you can also control the heat in them based on how it's the same with habaneros and hot peppers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the growing conditions and how hot it is, how not hot it is, like temperature wise, hot, the heat and the sun and all that stuff in the soil, you can control how hot they are, or not hot they are based on the growing conditions. Now you got to be really good at that crap.
You do.
Me, I'm glad it grows and it makes something edible.
Right. I've never ever. My dad always did this when we were little. We always had a garden. He always did corn, radish, potatoes, tomatoes. I think
love my garden.
Lettuce, cauliflower, and a couple other things. But I've never, ever, ever done a garden myself, ever, because grocery stores. Because grocery stores. My husband and I have actually grown to really love gardening. We tried it in our old house, and it just, we were young, and again, it was just like, wow, why this is just, I got better things to do. And of course, as you grow older, those perspectives change, and you enjoy it. And I do, and we do, especially now. We're waiting to see if his one plant's going to come back, because it's not supposed to, but we've been told many, many times before that these plants are not perennials and they're not supposed to come back, and then they do. So we're like, okay, we'll see if it does. But we've really come to love, like he's got his hot peppers, and we always tend to overdo it. We have, we can fit 4 tomato plants in here, and then it becomes like a thistle patch that you'd see outside of a cabin in a horror movie that just happens to have tomatoes on it and no thistles. Right.
Like you got to fish into it to get whatever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, every year where we have our garden, it grows fantastically well. Our squash and sugar snap peas, but we also have a crew of groundhogs, generation after generation after generation, and doesn't matter what I do, they're like termites. They just, granted, we do live up next to conservation, so it's kind of, but tell you what,
if you live next to nature,
I love nature, but I hate nature. When you get out of the shower and my window's right there, and you just hear this little, like a rabbit chewing on something.
Yeah.
And you look out the window, and there's a big fat groundhog staring at you in your face, eating your stupid squash plants. And I want so badly to run out there, but of course I can't, because I just got out of the shower. So by the time I can do anything, he's devoured my entire plant, because it takes about 3 seconds for them to do that.
Yeah, I would imagine they're quick eaters. So we don't see
we've
too many
dispatched of
groundhogs.
quite a few, but they keep coming back.
We see squirrels. We actually have rabbits in the neighborhood as well.
We have a ton of those.
But
I got all sorts of stuff in my yard.
We
Like
mostly squirrels. We have not really ground. We haven't seen a lot of groundhogs in quite a while, actually.
Like I said, we're backed up to conservation, so we've got a ton of them. So the final flavor is obviously my nemesis, salt, but it's also savory or umami. So that salt, savory, umami flavor, in savory umami, that's essentially the same thing. But salt is the most common way to bring that all around flavor, that balance that brings out the flavor in all of the other components of a dish. I mean, anybody who's seen the Food Network says they can tell you that if you under season a dish, they mean the salt. As I've proven time and time again, it's not necessarily always a replacement for salt, but you can most definitely make very flavorful food without salt. So unless everybody I've ever cooked for is lying to me, you can make good dishes without salt. Does that mean that people don't miss the salt occasionally, depending on how salted your palate is? Absolutely. Again, bacon, you can't substitute anything for bacon. You can get close, you can get things that taste good and things that you'll eat, but you can't. Bacon's bacon.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you just can't, like salt on a tomato. You can do a lot of things to make a tomato pop and taste good and add to it and use balsamic reductions and all of this stuff. But there's still nothing that's going to replace, even using potassium chloride instead of sodium chloride, which we talked about in one of the very beginning episodes.
Yep.
They're both essentially a means to the same end, but they both react with the body in very similar ways and can be very detrimental depending on what medications you're on. And you're also more sensitive based on your palate. So for me, some people are like, I think it tastes exactly like salt, 100% across the board, both can be interchangeable. Then there's people like me, which is the other literally half of the population, that says you can taste the metallic potassium side like putting a penny or licking a battery. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to, I don't want salt so bad that I want to taste like I'm licking a battery every time I make something.
Yeah.
It's just so unbelievably off-putting. And if you have to cook with something that has potassium chloride added so that it doesn't have sodium, then like if you need a cup of ketchup for something and it's low sodium ketchup, but it's using potassium chloride, then it just floods the entire, like I tried making a barbecue sauce with it once and the whole thing just tasted like battery. It was so gross. It was like a bowl full of pennies with sugar.
Sweet pennies.
Right.
I'd probably take a pass on that myself.
So I'm going to have to try this. My dad says slice off some Irish Spring soap and drop it on the ground outside the garden, keeps the critters away. I'll have to try that. The funny thing is the one thing that I absolutely despise, and I don't know that I've ever actually tried it, is cantaloupe. My mom loves it. She's always eating it.
I will actually eat cantaloupe.
I can't. I took food classes way back in high school, and the teacher cut open it. We were learning about melons, and she cut open a cantaloupe. And I was like, I don't feel good. She's like, we'll see how you can handle the class, and if you still don't, we'll send you up to the nurse. It's like, okay. And then she sets this plate of melon at each one of our little tables, and I puked. Like I literally ran to one of the sinks and threw up, and then went home. And I've
was it because of the smell of that?
Yeah, anytime I get around the smell of cantaloupe, it's just made me nauseous. And I never put two and two together for years. My mom would always eat it. And I was like, oh, that smells gross. I don't want anything to do with it. It just went away. So I moved myself from it and never thought about it until I was literally like a freshman in high school and discovered that. And then the next time I was around cantaloupe, it made me puke.
I can get, so bananas do that to me. Just the smell of a banana makes me just want to hurl.
The reason why that has anything to do with groundhogs is someone had told me to eat, because I'm like, how do I catch this thing? We've been trying for weeks. We can't catch it to get it out of my yard. How do I catch it? And I had a friend say, use a few day old cantaloupe. Like of all of the things, it has to be my nemesis. So I literally held my breath, sliced open a cantaloupe, put it in big chunks, put it in a bag, left it sit for a few days, and we put it in that trap. I kid you not, we caught that freaking thing in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
No exaggeration, literally 10 to 15 minutes. I had put it in the cage, set the live trap next to our garden, went inside, middle of the day, broad daylight, and like went to the bathroom, came back out, heard a noise, and the thing was caught. So
Wow.
I've used cantaloupe ever since. They just every single time.
Huh? They really like that stuff.
So that's
Go
what
figure.
that's what I. It's not a deterrent. So I'll try the Irish soap to see if it deters them. But I at least know how to catch the little buggers if they make me angry enough.
So with the Irish soap, do you just like toss a bar
That's
out
what he
there?
says. He says Irish soap shaved around your garden.
Shaved around your garden. Okay. Huh.
I'll have to figure that out.
That's interesting.
But so to add salt, I've talked about this before. Mushrooms, seared mushrooms, I use them a lot now. They add a nice rounded flavor to things. When you sear meats or vegetables or roasted, that umami comes from that Maillard reaction, and it's that salted reaction. If you are a meat eater, bacon grease. So I cook bacon for my husband, and I keep the grease in a little thing in my refrigerator because the bacon grease itself is really low in sodium.
And it's super tasty.
Right. And if you can't get bacon grease, so literally any butcher, and this is what is so surprising to me, this whole freaking zombie apocalypse crap has made me realize how many people need to look in their communities and say, holy crap, we have a butcher or a local farm or a farmer's market or a whole, like the amount of people that don't know these things is just mind-boggling to me. That's well, that's because everybody anywhere. Go to your butcher.
That's because they go to
Jewel
or they go to Walmart or they go to Meijer and they think, oh, that's the extent of grocery stores.
Yeah, you need to step outside your box. You really do, because when it comes to food, things like with me with cooking with blueberries, and so many people went, holy crap, all of this started from me making a sauce with blueberries. I posted a thing with seared flank steak, sliced thin with asparagus, Dijon mustard asparagus, and roasted steak fry potatoes, like the wedges, and an onion blueberry sauce. Everyone, holy crap, a blueberry onion sauce. Yeah, it's not sweet
never heard
at all.
Of that. Huh.
That tart flavor that blueberries impart.
Yeah, the only way blueberries get sweet is if you add sugar to them. Yeah, blueberries are not sweet. They just are not.
So, you step outside your box a little bit and try something new. It's you might surprise yourself in all of these different things in what you can find to put together. So some good ones that I do a lot, grapes with roasted vegetables, or chocolate with something spicy, or adding spicy to chocolate, strawberries and basil, avocado and chocolate. That's become a popular one. That used to be really surprising to some people, and it might still be for those that don't eat avocado, but avocado as a fat can be interchanged quite widely in many different applications. Like I make an egg salad with avocado. So instead of using a boatload of mayonnaise or something of that nature, if you mash up avocado for your egg salad or hummus, it's a much healthier option as far as fats are concerned, because of the amount of other things that you get it. As Elvis Presley would probably like, bacon and bananas.
I don't think I'd put bananas.
You don't like bananas.
I can't stand bananas, but we've got just a few seconds left. So tell everybody how they can find you outside of the show.
So outside of our show, my website, which unfortunately I'm not as up to date as I want to be because I work too much, LoSoLifestyle.com, my Facebook page, LoSo Lifestyle. And then we've got, for you McHenry County peoples, we have McHenry County Recipe Share. And then, of course, you can listen to us live every week on 216thenet.com, or download the app and support our station, and you will support me.
Awesome. All right. Until next week, this has been My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Schepp.
Thanks, people.
All right. There we go.
I'm going to steal your mouse.
Oh,
give you
wait. Wait. I gotta.
Oh, I gave it back.
Okay. Here, we got to go off the air first. And then now you can go ahead and end Facebook over there if you want.
Okay. And then give this back to you.
Okay.
We'll get it one of these days.
There we go. All right. And we'll say so long to
We
YouTube
should,
now.
you know what we should do? Instead of having this